Hi folks, we're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the recent riots in Melbourne, Australia, which were outside a trade exhibition in Melbourne and just near the downtown area, just a couple of kilometres out of the downtown. And this was an arms munitions type expo, an international expo. So there were, as I understand it, exhibitors and people from 40 plus companies and businesses and countries around the world. So it was I guess a pretty big deal. But the demonstrations were violent. They were large. There were professional anarchist activists and agitators and stirrers and troublemakers there, and they brought all their paraphernalia, all their weaponry, all their bits and pieces for harassing and intimidating not only people who were attempting to enter the expo, such as it could be visitors or people that worked for the exhibitors and so on. They were openly and quite blatantly harassing them, but also, I would argue provoking police as much as they could. The police were showing, I thought, surprising restraint and weren't going anywhere near as hard as they would if it was a supposed far right protest. So if you're out protesting mass migration or something like that, the police are tough. They're out there to put you in your place, you fucking damn Nazi. But if you're doing far worse and creating all sorts of trouble and so on the street without any without a permit or anything like that, then the police are surprisingly soft and gentle. They'll wait until you really engage in the tough stuff before they'll start to respond, which is quite remarkable, I think. Nonetheless, I just want to look at the wider issues here now. These people, supposedly thousands, I mean, some were saying as many as 10,000 or greater, protesters turned up. I'm not sure it was that many, but assume large numbers of now they were bussed in, so it was organised well in advance, weeks, months in advance. Buses were hired, and signs were arranged, coordinating with food and water and distribution, and there were collection points that were organised. It was all organised online. So the authorities, who apparently can, if a far right person even looks sideways or posts a mean tweet, the authorities are onto it really quick. They know where the person is. They'll come in and they'll sort of pre-arrest them for a crime they may or possibly could or might commit in the future, in very scary dystopian type policing. But in this case, there was nothing. All of these people, all of the organising, all the collection points, all the entire thing was organised brazenly and blatantly, almost in broad daylight. The authorities knew who was doing it, everything they were organising, who was paying for it, where the money was coming from. The authorities knew everything. And if they didn't know, that meant they just weren't bothering to look. They've got the facility. They can examine down to micro detail supposed far right people, which means they can do it to anybody. And so they knew everything. And so yet this whole thing was allowed to go ahead. Now the police or the authorities could have easily intercepted the pickup points where the people were going all around the outer suburbs. They were going to the cities. They were going to the suburbs. The people were coming in, being collected by buses that were fitting 60, 70 people per bus. They could have stopped the hiring of the buses. They could have stopped the collection. They could have done 100 things. They could have closed the bank accounts of the people that were doing it. But instead, they did none of that. None of it. Not one thing was done to stop this going ahead. Nothing was done to prevent it. Yeah, I mean, I would argue that everything was done to facilitate it, and that seems odd to me. Why would they do that? So these thousands of people then congregate. Most of them are activists to do with, say, Palestine, because some of the businesses that were exhibiting at the trade expo were supposedly Jewish or Israeli, rather. And so that was considered. Then this would be a great opportunity to protest. So the organisers thought protest against arms and munitions anyway, and it would just be a great place to stir up trouble. And why don't we do it? Now the leftist media, or certainly the pro-globalist media, took a very benign view. The photographs that they took weren't of riots, or the feature headline photographs weren't of riots and burning and the violence, and so that wasn't of that. It was a lone woman, just one woman, strong and brave, standing up against a line of riot police. The strength of it all, the power of the lone woman fighting back against the oppression of evil fucking Nazis. So the brown woman, no less, brown woman in a hijab. Oh, what the strong woman of it. So this was the imagery that they were using. Now, other stuff was mentioned, but it was put along the lines of, well, a few police were injured, but the protesters were injured. They all went to hospital because of the oppression of the Nazis. So it's very, very sympathetic. So the globalist position media was to acknowledge that there was a bit of pushing and shoving, but hey, they're protesting. They have a moral right to freedom of speech. But what about when someone else says, no, they're Nazis. No freedom of speech for them. No, but these people have freedom of speech, but they don't. So a very one-sided and uneven depiction. So there was support for these riots and no attempt to stop it. Now, what do you make of this? Clearly, the authorities wanted the riot to go, or they wanted the demonstration to go ahead. And again, the leftist media, the Guardian, that sort of thing, they treated it with utmost sympathy and tried to turn it into a Palestinian rights issue. It was a women's rights issue. It was an LGBT. So they tried to spin it in that typical globalist, create race hustling, social division type propaganda, which is all that they really do these days, those sort of media outlets. And that's very much approved by the globalist cabal, this spreading social, racial, gender, sexuality division in Western society. It's key to their undermining of Western society and to breaking down all opposition to the globalist project, or questioning even of it. So this is, again, it sort of fits into that wider narrative, which is, I think, why there was no attempt to prevent it. Now, there is still a line that's true. If you overstep the line too far, they'll arrest you. Now, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. From what I can gather, and the information scanty, the people that were arrested were let go pretty quickly without charge. That isn't the same thing that happens if you oppose the globalist project. Then you're grabbed and you're charged. There also wasn't the same police attempt to grab the primary agitators. People that were organising anything that opposes globalization, like opposing mass migration, that sort of thing, they're a special police rush into the crowd and grab agitators. They know who the agitators are. They know who the organisers are. They've got all that covered on social media, so they arrive at the demonstrations or the protests knowing that we want to get Billy Bob and Jimmy Jack. Here are their photos. Okay, when you see them, let's go. Okay, there they are. Let's get them. They're monitoring mobile phones, location data, the whole sort of thing. Very professional attempt to move in and crush the protest. There's none of that same level of detailed, decisive, go in and get them type policing that you see. So as soon as you oppose the globalist project, suddenly the whole police focus and presence, or the authorities generally, is very different. And these people who were protesting in Melbourne outside the Trade Expo, they were pretty much waved through. The police could have stopped it, prevented it from occurring at any time, but they chose not to and just let it go. I doubt if more than a handful of people will face any charges. I doubt if those charges, or if, assuming it even gets to court, will be much more than a slap on the wrist, maybe a good behaviour bond, $50 fine. If you notice people that do the climate change protests, no matter how violent they get on, no matter how disruptive, they're given, with some very recent exceptions, they're typically given nothing more than a slap on the wrist, and they're back out the next day doing. Even some of the activist judges that here are even congratulating these people. You're doing good work, creating all this mayhem. You're hitting back against those Nazi fucking, people that are fucking up the climate. So there's a whole network of government going soft on it, prosecutors not wanting to prosecute, police reluctant to arrest and bring charges, and then judges that are keen to let them go. And I think this is in the same category. But opposed mass migration, whoa, you're in big trouble, motherfucker. So again, this to me is in my view at least, is the two-tier policing. They could have stopped this protest at any time, which caused huge disruption, by the way, to the traffic, and because these people took over the road and broke all. This was the police again could have arrested all of them just for that. Get the fuck off the road or you're being arrested. But instead, the police waited till it really got out of hand before they would go and arrest anybody. So you effectively had to assault a police officer or start beating on the head of some police horse or so. You had to do that sort of stuff before they would act. And even then, a lot of the people who did that were able to walk away without being arrested or without charge. So there you go, the two-tier policing in action again. You've been with Tasteless today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.